Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Joe Mac from New York. Joe, we're freezing out here. My house, we were in the 20s last night. New York's probably warmer than I am.
Yeah, you were telling me that, Jim. I mean, that's a little crazy. I said it's a little chill in the air here. It's really like a perfect football day. It's too bad there's not lots of games. There's a Navy-Connecticut game tonight that I don't know how many folks are going to be tuning in for, but they're going to get some of that chill in the air. But it's a great football weather weekend here. Unfortunately, we don't have a game in this area until Monday night when Dallas plays the Giants. But it's football weather, and maybe you folks in Las Vegas got to get a little taste of that chill too.
We're getting it, that's for sure. Well, we have a lot going on this weekend. We got the Breeders' Cup that goes today, which is big, today and tomorrow. We've got pro basketball. We've got hockey. We've got the CFL, which is the Canadian Football League, in case people don't know what that means. And, of course, we have college football and pro football. We had a game last night. The 8-0 Niners took on the Cardinals, and they did not cover, and the game flew over the total. I was a little bit surprised that the vaunted defense of the Niners gave up that many points, but you know, the offense for the Cardinals is a little unusual, and perhaps the Niners had a little bit of a flat spot after that 51 points they put up the week before.
You know, that's a good point. Lots of times you see teams in the NFL, when they wipe out somebody, you know, when they score upper 40s, low to mid 50s, the next week, let's face it, they're not going to be quite as sharp. And I think you hit something on the head, Jim. The Cardinal offense is a little different. Okay, a lot of college teams have been running this offense now for 4 or 5 years or so. This offense is a little trickier at times. We saw that big play to the kid Isabella, the touchdown. I mean, you could tell the coverage was a little funky for the Niners. We saw Richard Sherman blowing a gasket there on the sidelines about it, looking to blame, I guess, somebody else for the misplay. But this is what I would say about that. I think a team like the 49ers, with that pass rush and that secondary, the next time they get a look at the Cardinals, they're going to be more tuned in for that, and I don't think you'll see some big plays that way. But I tell you what, you got to give I know they didn't cover the number, but the Niners are really something. I mean, 8-0 straight up. They got a quarterback who made 3 big plays there, or a couple of big pass plays. The running back obviously got that first down barely, Tevin Coleman. They're answering every call right now. And I think you and I touched on it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure we're not the only ones that have thought about it, but wouldn't this be juicy if it got to be a 49er New England Patriots Super Bowl, and you had all those storylines with Garoppolo going up against Brady and Belichick, who, from all reports, did not want to trade Garoppolo? That would be something. I mean, you know, we always get some side stories and things of that nature heading into the Super Bowl, but that's obviously way down the line. We're half the season away and the playoffs, but that would really be some fun stuff. And the Niners, they're for real. I mean, the pass rush is great. The Bosa kid, I mean, he could be Defensive Player of the Week just about every week so far. They're for real. They're not going to cover every number, and maybe they're getting a little too respect at times, but they're for real. And to me, they, you know, where they stand right now, they should be thinking, hey, we got to get to at least the NFC Championship game. And one other thought I was having about it, I said, you know, if the Rams come around, get their health a little better and everything, I said that would be kind of fun if you had a Rams 49ers battle eventually in the NFC title game. That'd be fun stuff. But again, that's far down the road, and hats off to the Niners. I know they didn't cash for their backers last night, but they're showing me a lot of grit.
Yeah, they are. Now, they do have a tough part of their schedule coming up. I mean, they got Seattle next, which people can argue that Seattle isn't all that good. And I don't think Seattle is all that good, but the fact that they have Russell Wilson makes them good, and he can pull out a lot of games. They got a big lead last week against Atlanta, and then they just didn't do anything in the second half, and they gave up the spread. Their backers lost their money. But you know, the Niners have a tougher card going forward. I mean, they got to play Arizona in 2 weeks. Next game is Seattle. Then they got to play some really tough games down the stretch. So they're going to be tested. You know, in the NFC, there are some very strong teams. Minnesota and Green Bay are very, very strong. The Saints, with or without Breeze, they've been absolutely unbelievable. So you can't discount them. Dallas has looked good at times. Philadelphia at times. But the AFC doesn't have that much to talk about because the teams just are not performing. This week we have New England going to Baltimore, and about the best team in the AFC other than the Patriots seems to be Baltimore.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, right now, the way you look at it, there's really nobody that's probably going to challenge the Patriots as far as getting to a Super Bowl. I mean, they're going to, unless something crazy happens, they're going to have home field for it would be 2 playoff games. And there's really no real, I mean, you don't know with the Chiefs. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get down the road from Patrick Mahomes and everything. And you know what? Even if Patrick Mahomes gets back on board and doesn't miss a beat like Drew Brees last week, he didn't seem to miss a beat after all that time off. The Chiefs defense is really bad. I mean, they can't be trusted. I know last year that's a game in the AFC Championship game they should have won, but their defense can't stop a soul, and I can't really take them totally seriously. I know they changed coordinators and everything in the offseason, but my God, they let guys run wide open down the field. The tackling is bad. I can't make them out like a superpower. To me, I don't look at them that way. Now, the Ravens, they're not a superpower, but they've got a quarterback that is like Harry Houdini at times in Lamar Jackson. He makes so many great plays out of really nothing. To me, they have one of the top 3 coaches in the league in John Harbaugh. And you know what? You know what you're going to get. Special teams and the defense it's not vintage 2000 Baltimore Ravens, but it's decent. And I think you're right. I think they're probably the best contender. Now they're going to get a feel for each other this Sunday night. The Patriots would certainly like to finish unbeaten this year, but I don't think you're going to see that as a storyline as we go along here. Like in 2007, I think it was important to that team to go 16-0 and win it all, which, of course, they did not in the end with the Giants beating them. I don't think it's going to mean as much to the Patriots. They're not as deep as team, and if they can rest guys down the road, they will. I think they'd love to win this game and give Harbaugh and company a little feel of, what they might see again in the playoffs. But right now, Jim, I don't see anybody even really close to the Patriots. I mean, you make a good point. The NFC, there's some really good teams. There's some elite teams. Heck, there's 6 teams, 7 teams in the NFC that if they got hot, and they're good teams, and if they get hot in the postseason, it doesn't have to be the 49ers or the Rams or the Saints. I mean, there could be other teams. I'll give you a team. The Eagles have a tough next couple of weeks of scheduling, but if you look at their last 5 games this year, they're all winnable games. So a team like the Eagles, if they can just hang in there, keep Wentz healthy, and maybe run the table in the last 5 weeks of the season, they could be a trouble team for others out there. So NFC is much more loaded, way more good team, all around teams. And again, in the AFC, the Chiefs, I can't trust their defense. The Ravens, I don't know if they're as well-rounded as they need to be. Enough offensive playmakers outside of Jackson. It's the Patriots, and I'd really be shocked at this point if they're not standing there Super Bowl Sunday.
So what you're trying to say is the Dolphins aren't going to be there at the end?
They may make a run for it if they can sweep the Jets this year.
Of course. Well, we do have a London game. Houston goes to London. I don't know that they've ever been there before. I don't think they have. Jacksonville goes every year. It's kind of like their second home. They're used to being over there. Jacksonville's playing pretty well. They got the backup quarterback, Fournette, running the ball tough. They got a good defense. They're sitting there as a 1 or 2 point underdog to Houston. Now, Houston lost J.J. Watt, and Deshaun Watson got kicked in the eye, which has limited his practice this week. He's been told by the doctors to rest. So that sort of indicates to me that there was some damage. That's 6:30 a.m. my time. It's 9:30 your time in the morning on Sunday. We hate those early starts, but it does set the day up early. And then we got on the card, I'm going down the card a little bit, Washington. I guess they're going to start Haskins. And for me, Joe, from what I've seen of him, he does not look ready to start a football game in the NFL. He just looks lost. It's almost like he's never... I know there's dysfunction on the Redskins. They've already fired their coach. That's one of those bad ownership teams that you get in the NFL. And too much interference. I'm not sure that the football people ever wanted to draft Haskins. And now they're going up against Buffalo, who lost last week. A little embarrassed for them. I like their coach. I like their defense. Their offense is a little shaky. Their quarterback's a little questionable. But I don't. If Haskins is starting for Washington, I do not understand how they're going to score any points.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I mean, Haskins really only had 1 year in college. He put up all these crazy numbers. But here's the things that, a lot of people out there already know. He was exclusively in the shotgun. He was throwing to receivers. Now we're starting to see Ohio State has some of the great receivers, young receivers coming into the NFL, including a teammate there, McLaurin, who's really been a good bright spot for a bad Redskin team. I agree with you. Haskins wasn't ready. From all reports, ownership wanted to draft him. General manager, coaches, those group of guys did not want to draft him. Jay Gruden really kind of forced his own hand there. When they played the Giants back in week 4, the Redskins went into the Meadowlands. They were a small favorite, about a 3-point dog. The Giants were favored. And they weren't getting much movement out of Case Keenum, so they put Haskins in, and he was terrible. I mean, he was throwing to wrong areas. He just was off. He was high and wide on a lot of throws. And it showed you right then and there he wasn't ready. He needed more seasoning. And yet, they're going to bounce him back into this spot. And, you wonder how much of a mental beating he's going to take. He's going to go up against the Buffalo defense that's very good pass rush, solid cover guys. It's a tough spot. I mean, some guys take their lumps as first-year quarterbacks and get better as they go along. But right now, Haskins is kind of flatlining and not showing much. Now, I will say that the interim coach, Callahan, he's definitely going to look to take some heat off him. He wants to run the ball more. We've seen that in the last couple of weeks. He's had Adrian Peterson running it, 20-plus times a game when Peterson was only running it like 10, 11, if at all, under Gruden. So he's taking a little heat off Haskins, but still, it's a bad spot. And, what if there's wind up there in Buffalo? This kid might wind up with like a 6 of 18 pass completion game with 3 interceptions. It's not going to shock anybody, but listen, they took a guy that was kind of a novice in college, and now they're expecting him to be all-world. I'll tell you another guy who's like that, and we've seen it here in New York, is Sam Darnold. Now, I'm not going to pin this 1-6 Jet start solely on him. He's missed time with mono. He's had other little... he had a toenail pulled off last week, and this week he's got some other thumb injury. But I tell you what, I saw Sam Darnold plenty in college, like a lot of folks out there did. He was not ready to be a star in the NFL. I always say this all the time. Kirk Herbstreit one night, when Darnold was towards the end of his junior year, said this kid needs another year in college. Instead, he had people tell him, you're going to be the top pick or the second or third pick. He came out. He's not ready. He has his moments, but he throws off his back foot. He does a lot of bad things. And anyway, that's what Haskins does. These guys are not mature, polished quarterbacks yet, and you can't expect them to be at 22-year-olds or 21-year-olds. But meanwhile, the beatings and the stuff they get exposed to in these games, Darnold, I know everyone's making fun of that comment that he sees ghosts, but he's throwing the ball like he doesn't ever want to be hit. And Haskins, to me, when I've seen him, like you said, that's the best description. Lost. He looks lost. And you know what? These guys need a lot more seasoning, and they need a little time on the bench to watch what's going on before they get thrown in like this. So some guys can survive it and do it, but heck, you and I can remember back in the day when John Elway was a rookie, and he took a beating and looked terrible. Okay, John Elway became one of the great NFL quarterbacks ever. But whether he was ready or not at the time, I don't know. But he took a beating. So right now, guys like Darnold, guys like Haskins, they're going to take their lumps, and they're going to have some really bad stat lines to boot.
Are there any games on the card that you would like to discuss in the next 10 minutes or so that we got going?
Well, we talked a little bit about the Monday night game before we got on the air here. It's the Cowboys at the Giants. Obviously, they played once before this year, but Daniel Jones was not in the lineup. He came in late, subbing for Eli Manning. I got a good feeling about the Giants in this game. Right now, they're taking a full touchdown. Jones is expected to have his main 4 targets back. That's his running back, Barkley, his tight end, Ingram, who drops too many passes, and his wideouts, including Sterling Shepard, who's missed the last 3 games with concussion, but all signs say he's going to play. I got a feeling they're going to look pretty good here. Daniel Jones looked fine last week against the Lions. He threw 1 backwards pass, which was a mistake. But outside that, he looked pretty good. And he has to be a young quarterback who seems to be stepping up and getting a little bit better here. The Cowboys, to me, I don't know. They're kind of a hit or miss type of thing. I mean, if you're going to tell me that you're going to give the ball to Zeke Elliott 30 rushes a game, I'm sure he's going to get his $130, $140, and that might be good enough for the Cowboys to win. But I don't know. I mean, they come in off a bye. They slaughtered the Eagles in their game right before their bye. But before that, they had a couple of really sloggy-type games. Obviously lost to the Jets. I mean, the Jets' only win for the year is against the Cowboys. I could see the Giants, who are not well coached, by the way. You and I have talked about NFL head coaches. Pat Shurmur is not ever going to have a trophy named after him like Vince Lombardi. But you know what? This kid's going to get better. I think it was a good pick when the Giants made it. A lot of people screamed when Jones got picked 6. I think he's going to wind up, I'll tell you the truth, I think he's going to wind up as a better quarterback than Sam Darnold in this New York market. It's going to be cause for controversy over the years. But I think the Giants have a good shot here Monday night, certainly with plus the points. And I'll tell you what, you're talking also a little bit about the Grudens, and to talk about John Gruden, he's done a solid job this year with the Raiders, but this is a tough task here. They're laying a small price to the Lions. Detroit's getting some big games from their wideouts. Stafford seems to be making fewer mistakes, if you will, fewer bad decisions. I mean, if you look at it, Stafford has a 16-4 touchdown ratio. That's pretty good for him. I mean, he's had a lot of years where at this time of the year he's already had double-digit picks. I think that's an interesting game. I think I'd be looking at the Lions a little bit there. They're 3-3-1 this year. They blew that opening game and got a tie from the Cardinals. They've had a couple little rough patches along the way, but they looked good against the Giants last week. Their offense has scored 30 or more points in 3 of their last 4 games. It's a tricky spot here for the Raiders. They were in a big emotional game with the Texans last week. I think they played well. Their quarterback, Carr, threw for 3 TDs, no picks. But I almost have a feeling that the Lions are the better team. And to me, it should be a toss-up game. If they're going to give you a couple of points, you know what? I might be leaning towards the gang from Motown.
Joe, in a little bit of the time, use it up to talk about Jim Hurley Network and what you got going on there.
We got a lot going on. We've had a solid season. We want to do even better. We've got a lot of college games now. Folks that are hardcore fans know that there's a lot of top 10 teams not playing this week. It's not a monster week in terms of marquee matchups, but we got some good games. We got Georgia, Florida. We got a couple of big Pac-12 games, including number 7 Oregon in action. And the Jim Hurley Network is going to be cashing left and right. College football and, of course, the NFL on Sunday and Monday, NFL Week 9. All you have to do, folks, is call us toll-free, 1-800-323-4453. Again, it's a toll-free number, 1-800-323-4453. Or else you can check us out online, www.jimhurley.com. We've been around for a long time, 1985. I've been with them since 1994. Again, we've had a solid season. We want to do even better. We're going to cash a lot this weekend. 1-800-323-4453, Jim Hurley Network.
You also have the Breeders' Cup today and tomorrow, and I'm sure you got stuff going on for that too.
We certainly do. We have action, as you said, got a lot of races tomorrow. They get it opened with action today. We're going to have those picks also. Same thing, online at jimhurley.com or at 800-323-4453. I know every year the horse racing is generally not my department, but every year I hear that there's some nice big exactas and trifectas thrown into the mix here. So folks should give it a call. Like you said, you've got Breeders' Cup, you've got NBA, a lot of big action already this week. You've got NFL, you've got college football, heck, you've got the NHL, and like you said, you got Canadian Football League. How can you beat it? October into November is always a great time, and if folks look back, they'll see last year at this time, we were roaring hot in college football and pretty hot in the pros, so check us out, 800-323-4453, Jim Hurley Network.
That's great, and this is, before we close out, I want to hats off to the Washington Nationals, incredible run. They came back from 5 different elimination games, down in every game, and they came back and won that. It was an absolutely incredible journey for the Nationals, and congratulations. I guess they are the championship. I mean, they got the Capitals, last year or 2 years ago. I mean, they got the Mystics. Other than the Washington Redskins, I guess Washington's doing pretty well.
They are. I don't think you're going to be reserving any NBA Finals tickets for the Wizards soon, but really, it's been a great run. A little title town there in the district, like you said, including the WNBA team, the Mystics, the Capitals. I mean, I heard a guy saying last night they celebrate. They set like crazy. They set the bar high in terms of partying. That they party nonstop. They've got the parade on Saturday for the Nationals. I think that could be a real humdinger, and let's face it, that was a great run. All those elimination games, Strasburg, Scherzer, the team went 10-1 when those two guys started. Great job by Davey Martinez. I'm a Mets fan, so it was a little tough to stomach at times, but hats off to them. I mean, listen, they went through hell and back, a lot of those players, and all those Game 5 losses in divisional series in the past. Those fans got to be feeling great. They got to be on cloud 9, and good for them, and great clutch. I mean, we can go down the line, Rendon, Kendrick, whatever. I mean, just a great team effort, and really, they kind of shocked the world because in 2 of those series, they were a heavy-duty dog, both to the Dodgers and the Astros, so they earned it.
I wonder how Bryce Harper feels. He leaves the Nationals, gets the huge contract from Philadelphia, and then they go on and win the World Series.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really has to pain him. I'm sure he's got a lot of friends on the team. I mean, I have to say, you used to hear from guys on the team, except for who was the guy that were choking each other a few years ago in the dugout. But outside of that, they said Harper was a pretty popular guy on the team, but it's got to hurt him. I mean, that's got to cut to your core that you were on that team for all those years, and you step off it. The team you go on underachieves, plays 500 ball, and your old team winds up winning it all and capturing the hearts of the team down here. It's crazy how things work out. I mean, if you look at it, you can't say Harper's a loser. He got his $300 million, but you know what? If he winds up being a guy that doesn't ever win a championship, I mean, you could say it's going to haunt him because his teams were so close in years past. I mean, and I've thought this about a couple of things real quick, Jim, that lots of times in sports, the best team during like a 7-8 year stretch doesn't win it. I mean, I could go back to the Kansas City Royals. They had classic teams in the mid to late 70s. They never won it. Then in 1985, when to me there were probably 10 teams in baseball better than them, they won it. I mean, it happens that way sometimes, and I think it's a lot like that this year. I'm not downgrading the Nationals. They had a great run here in the postseason. But let's face it, when you went into this postseason, most people were going to tell you there were probably 6 or 7 teams better than the Nationals out there that were in the playoffs. And it's the Nationals that win it, when in years past, sometimes they win in his favor. And they got knocked out in Game 5 at home against the Cardinals, or Game 5 at home against, or Game 4 the Giants. I mean, you could go down the list. So this probably wasn't their best team in the last 7 or 8 years, but it's a team that everyone's going to remember down there for a long time.
Absolutely true. And I want to remind everybody, on Tuesday, we start the college basketball season, and we got about 300 teams, give or take, that we have to analyze each and every day. It's a big money-making time for us, starting on Tuesday, and we go on for about, 6 months almost. That and the NBA. And it won't be the Warriors in the finals this year, I guarantee you that. They are now running into a lot of bad luck. They've lost a lot of players. The other night, unbelievably and terribly, Stephen Curry, one of the stars of the league. Magic to watch him. He broke his wrist. He'll be out for a while. They've lost other players as well. But college basketball starts on Tuesday. I know Joe will be ready. Jim Hurley Network will be ready. JimFeist.com will be ready. You know, it's a great time. It's a busy time. We just have to stop sleeping.
Well, I know you sleep about 2 to 3 hours a night, so knock it off, stop lollygagging, and get back to your desk 24 hours a day. All right?
Thank you, Joe. Have a great weekend.
You too, Jim. Stay well.
Bye-bye. Everybody go to JimFeist.com for the sign up for free play. Go to the Jim Hurley Network. You've heard what we got. Joe is really an expert at this. And we're going to have a big weekend at both sites. So go get them. And thanks for listening.